start this off with saying congratulations. I mean, you're saying you're here in week 3. You've been talking about this book, promoting this book. Did you ever think that you would be a bestseller, Kelly Ripa bestseller?
I'm not gonna lie, when I was writing the book, I didn't know that it would actually ever come out. You know, I just thought I would just keep writing a book and keep writing it and I would delay it, I'll delay it. But when it finally went to the printers and I got my first copy, I thought to myself, okay, so I'm just gonna get this, right? And you'll send me like maybe 2 dozen and I'll give to my friends at work and I'll give to my family and that'll be it.
Yeah, Christmas is covered.
You know, and then it goes into bookstores and then people buy it and then they love it and then other people are buying it and then you're meeting strangers on the street that are stopping you to discuss it. I never dreamed in my wildest imagination that it would speak to people the way that it did. I just was doing my best to write a book that was cohesive and funny and entertaining and in my voice, and it was harder than I thought it would be. It was the hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah, well, you've done it. And I mean, talking about writing in your voice, though, you can feel, it sounds like you're just chatting, having a conversation.
You know, you want to hear something really funny? After the book was over, you know, and it had been edited, it was sent off to the printers. We had Brian Cox on our show, star of Succession.
Right.
Logan Roy, I just love him so much. And he had been on our show to talk about his memoir. And I said, did you find it so enormously taxing? Because I found it so exhaustive and it was riddled with so much self-doubt and self-loathing and why am I not better at this? And he said, oh no, I just spoken to the voice memo app on my phone. And I thought to myself, what a great idea. Why didn't I think of that?
Right.
Because I was telling the stories out loud to myself as I was writing them and trying to write.
Transcribe them as you were
transcribing them for myself. And sometimes I would use a legal pad and a pen because I'm not that great on the keyboard. And suddenly, here comes Brian Cox with dropping pearls of wisdom that never occurred to me.
So if you just could have told me this a year ago.
2 years ago would have been helpful.
Hey, that's okay. The next one.
Yes.
You're ready to go.
Oh, yes, the next one.
Has there been anyone that you've been surprised who has reached out to you, who has read the book?
I mean, a lot of people. I think it's not really people in the industry and in show business because, when a book goes out, the publisher send it to people in media and in the industry, but there are people that I'm fans of that have been posting photos of it and I can't believe it and you're just like pinching yourself.
Has Cher read it?
I don't know if Cher's read it. That I don't know. I know that today
out.
Sharon Stone posted that she's reading it and I almost fell off the sofa in my dressing room. I was like, oh my God. So, it's like those things are just, pinch yourself moments. To me, what's been more surprising and fascinating are the amount of men that are coming. I've been doing these book speaking engagements and I assume that they've been dragged there by their wives. And no, they've read it or they've bought the book and they've thoroughly enjoyed it and they will recount chapters that they thought were pertinent or useful for them. And I think, this is amazing. I never thought of myself as someone with crossover appeal. And so when you see that, you're kind of spellbound. Like Sandy Kenyon is my friend and he's a real media specialist, but he read the book and the things he took out of it I found were so interesting to me.
Right. I mean, that just goes to show that you were talking about self-doubt and worrying, and then in those moments you have validation that you know what you're doing.
Yeah, but don't you entertain the self-doubt voices way more than the validation voices?
Oh.
Like,
please.
When you're talking to an audience of people and say there's, say there's like 1,300 people in a venue, right? you can't see most of them because the lights are dark, but you can see the first like 2 rows or something, right? And say everybody is smiling and laughing and nodding, but one person is not. That's the only person you talk to, right? Because you want to win them over in some way. You're thinking, you don't like it enough? You didn't like it, or was that not good? And it's like that with everything, isn't it?
Absolutely. I feel like I'm in that self-loathing sort of situation.
I'm here to talk you right out of it because you're amazing.
Get
You're
it
good
out.
at everything.
Get
You're
it out.
beautiful. Your whole future is ahead of you. You're really
awesome.
good at this. You're having a conversation. We're
With
having a
Kelly Ripa.
no,
by
but
the
I mean,
way.
but you're having a great conversation. We are having it together,
Yeah.
and so you've conquered all the hard stuff.
Well, you've conquered your fear of public speaking.
Never. I will never.
Really?
My mouth is bone dry as we talk. I will never conquer that fear. And I don't know. I'm now considering hypnosis. I'm thinking
really?
hypnosis is the key out of my unending fear of public speaking. I've been hosting a talk show for 23 years.
Yeah.
Why do I still have a fear of public speaking?
Why do you keep doing it? Like,
I don't know. When is your contract up with Access Hollywood?
like we're going. Kelly and I are going.
No. You could jump in here,
Oh,
and
God.
I could go. I could go.
My mouth is just
Now
as dry,
your mouth
Kelly.
is dry. See?
Yeah, I know. Now we're like,
see how
whew,
terrifying it is?
and sweating at the same time.
Exactly.
How is that happening? Oh my goodness. Well, obviously you drop a lot of your own pearls of wisdom and hear a lot of revelations. Of course, we have to talk about this epic love story between you and Mark. I mean, meeting on set and just the the proposal and eloping and everything. But was it true that it was love at first sight?
For me, it was love at first sight. He doesn't really recall me even having a head. He was just like, I was trying to get a job. I don't really remember what you looked like that day. I remember because it's burned into my brain. But he has no sort of real cohesive recollection. That's why I say, like, keeping a journal is always so helpful because you can really refer. I don't know if you keep one, but you should start today. Keep that journal. It will help you reflect more accurately back on what you were feeling in real time and what you were thinking in real time and who the players were. But yeah, for me, it was love at first sight. I knew, and I don't know how I knew this because I don't really believe in that. I'm not a hopeless romantic at all. But I knew that I would marry him, and I knew that he would be my person that I would walk through life with. I knew that, and I knew it. I don't know why.
It's beautiful. But that's always those are the ones that stick, though.
Well,
Because
he's really talk about a partner. Like, this guy walked through the darkest days of this book with me in a way that was so and again. He was living in Vancouver for 99% of it. So he would do these FaceTime wellness checks. And he'd say, oh, are you cranking it out? And I would, I'd be sitting there and his face would pop up on my phone. And I'd say, can I read you something? Can you tell me if this is any good? And he was always there. He was just always there.
Locked in. We did a home tour with you back in 1997.
Oh, yeah. I remember after we got married.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to play this
gosh.
clip for you.
This is funny. Oh, my gosh, yeah.
What happened? But next thing I knew, I was on the phone making reservations to go to Vegas next morning.
I know what happened.
What happened?
You got drunk, opened your mouth to marry me. I said yes, and you went, uh-oh.
That's the day. Okay. So several things about that interview. Number one, we had a crazy experience with a guy in line at Starbucks that day coming to do that interview. And
for Access Hollywood, this one.
That interview.
Okay.
And I was telling them about it, like I wonder if there was like raw footage, but there was a very strange encounter with a man that it was such a long story, but it's such a long story. I won't bore your audience with it, but you have to like try to find it.
Absolutely.
Second of all, I had just cut my hair without asking permission, and that was like all the scandal. I cut my hair without asking the producer's permission.
Right.
And it was very scandalous. So I was sort of like in a state of recovery. But I remember that.
Emotionally, or your hair in a state of recovery?
I was fine with my hair, but I was emotionally recovering from being, admonished for cutting my hair without getting advance permission from the producers. Because I was still in this place of like, sure, I can cut my hair and not inform everyone.
Yeah, I'm my own person.
I'm my own person.
In there, you said, I know what happened. You got drunk and you asked me to marry you.
Yeah.
In your
Yeah.
book, I believe you said it was Ruffino.
Yes, this is exactly what we drank. But he drank more of it. I just had like a glass. I was a sensible drinker. I had this much and he had like that much. And that's what happened. This is the wedding bottle. And Mike's Pizza from 2nd Avenue.
We tried to get the pizza. It didn't happen. But that's for you. You guys
Oh my gosh,
enjoy it.
thank you. Well, we quit drinking many years ago, but we have many friends and family that still drink, and I will bring this home tonight.
There you
Yes,
go.
Yes, thank
So
you
that's
very
a
much.
gift for those
I
people.
appreciate it. Thank you.
My goodness. And we have to ask you about the sex after baby ER situation. I know I read the story, so I'm filled in.
You
but
know
for
the
our
story.
audience,
So,
please break down what
So
happened.
I'll tell you a story. My mom, I asked my mom if she had read the book because I gave her like the first copy when it was like it hadn't hit the masses yet. And it was like a few weeks later, the book had come out, and I said, "Have you read the book yet?" And she goes, "No, I'm not reading your sex book." And I go, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "It's a sex book." And I go, "Why would you think it's a sex book?" And she said, "I've been reading the headlines." And I go, "Oh." "It's not a sex book, really, at all. It's really a story that leads to a story. It's just a headline. It's not a sex book. It's a good clickbaity headline."
Right.
And she goes, "Well, I don't want to read about you doing you-know-what with you-know-who." I go, "You're not going to read about that. It's really more about a medical condition that I didn't know I had, and it's really not about that either. It's really about what my husband dressed me in, putting me in an ambulance that is headed to the emergency room. That is really what the chapter is about. It gets buried in all of the Kelly's husband makes her pass out during sex. It sounds way sexier. It's not a love story. It's not a sex story. It's really a story about sartorial choices and how you can leave nothing up for chance when dealing with your husband who may be panicking. That's why I have my death clothes picked out, labeled, in the closet. In case I die, put me in this suit.
You actually do. I know you said that you were going to do that.
No, I actually have that because he needs to know I can't trust him now. I'll be in like big clown shoes and a red ball on my nose, which wouldn't be terrible, but still.
What did he have you in again? Was it like basketball shorts?
He had
and
me
heels?
in, I want you to understand, he put me, snaked my unconscious body because I passed out and then fell and hit my head. So it was like a cavalcade of issues. A Capezio French cut leotard, he snaked my unconscious body into a leotard. And everybody asks a very important question. Well, it had to be a snap crotch. No, it wasn't a snap crotch bodysuit. He actually threaded me into a bodysuit.
Amazing.
Then he put on his Juventus side snap warm-up soccer pants, which were giant. So they just sort of like hung there limply over the French cut leotard, and a pair of red Manolo Blahnik high heels. Okay?
Wow.
So I just want you to understand that
like
look and why he cannot be trusted.
Did he ever explain to you why he did that?
He said he was panicking and he didn't know what to do. And I said, T-shirts, sweatshirts, a sweater, so many options. And he goes, I panicked and I just took whatever I saw, whatever he saw, he grabbed. Whatever he saw first is what he grabbed.
And that just happened to be lying around. Those are the phases of Kelly.
These
There's
are the things, like,
leotard.
I don't think those were things that were lying around at all. According to him, they were lying around, that he grabbed that and put me in that costume.
That's hilarious. Your mom, obviously, like, she was very funny about, I don't want to
she's
your
funny.
sex story.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. You said in People that no matter what you and Mark are going through, that your sex life is always great. Your kids have said they've kind of like,
They're disgusted.
yeah, oversharing, but how did they handle that one?
So if you notice in the beginning, of that chapter, there is a disclaimer at the top that says, if you are related to us in any way, skip this chapter. If you do not, that's on you. It's not on me. They've not said one word about it, so I believe that they skipped right over it because they know me well enough to know that if I put a disclaimer, warning, if you are related to me in any way, skip this chapter. That means you should skip the chapter. You may see or hear things that you don't want to know.
And you can't unknow, and then that's what it is.
You can't unknow.
Once you know. I want to go back to All My Children. Was acting always the goal for you? Was that the thing? You said, I'm going to live and die by this.
Yeah, I mean, I never knew there were other jobs. I mean, there is something to be said for when you're young, and I was 19 years old when I got this job, and that was the job. I was an actor, and I didn't fancy myself as anything other than that. I certainly didn't consider myself a broadcaster. That seemed like a job that you needed some form of degree to perform. But like being an astronaut now, you no longer need an area of expertise they'll send me, you, anyone into outer space now, which is so exciting and yet terrifying.
A little bit terrifying. You need 2 weeks of training.
Yeah, but on live TV, really, they really took a gamble, and lucky for me, I've reaped the benefits, and I've been very fortunate to have this job for 23 years. It's ridiculous every time I say it.
Yeah. Do your kids ever YouTube like old clips of you guys?
They have seen old clips of themselves on the show when they were babies.
All they care about is seeing them.
Yeah,
like,
they just want to see themselves
Mom
as
and
little
Dad
kids.
falling in
Yeah,
love. Who cares?
they're not that interested in us or our careers, but they do occasionally. Somebody will like send them, pretty much producers here will send them clips of themselves. Like, if they're coming on the show, is it okay if we show this clip? And then they are fascinated by little them because they have no memory. No. Very little memory of, being on the show when they were that small, of course.
Yeah. But what a gift for all of you guys, too, to have it all on tape and you can go back. And
I keep saying it is such a privilege to have this shared history with the audience. And my kids it's not wasted on them. They feel very honored because people will say to them, people will recognize them without us and will say, I grew up, I watched you grow up on TV. I watched you grow up. And they have an extraordinary sense of pride in that. It means something to them.
Going from acting to broadcast, I know you spoke very honestly and very openly about that transition. And you talked very much about your relationship with Regis. I'm just curious, what was that transition like? And were you worried about what people were going to say about that moment? Or did you just want to be honest?
I think I was very reverent and very mindful about the way I speak about our relationship. I was very careful to transcript those moments. Those moments are transcripted, so it's not like I'm not putting words into people's mouths. Right. I just think it's important for people to have sort of contextualization of dynamics and workplace relationships and how they can, especially when two people don't know each other, they can be very difficult to navigate. And that's not his fault. It's not my fault either. It's just, it was what it was. And it played out on TV. So it's like easy to watch, it's not something that was like, when you see live TV, you're watching what's happening.
Right.
It's not hard to discern or decipher, but that was sort of the magic also, was this like electric, you know, snappy, crackly, whatever it was. You know, people tuned in for it because it was interesting. It was dynamics that reminded them of their workplace.
Right.
It was relatable. And that's why our show has been where it is for so long.
Right.
Because it's not me, and it's not him, and it's not him, it's not her. It's the collection, it's the show. It is that electricity and that thing of two people coming together to discuss their lives and what they did the night before and what they didn't do and what they're watching or what their kids are doing. I mean, that's what it is, and that's why people relate to it. But I do think that there's always an unfair judgment of women in front of the camera that's often not passed on to the men,
right.
you know, and so I just call it out for what it is, because that's what it is. There is unfair burdens on women in media.
Yeah, with that in mind, did you feel like you were pressured to uphold a relationship?
I feel like I have worked with thousands of people in show business. I mean, really.
Yeah.
And some of them I am really close to, and some of them I'm not close to. And some of them are my best friends. Eva LaRue is my son's godmother. And yet nobody ever asks me how often we speak. It's a very strange thing that was attached to one person only. And so, you know, I just call it out for what it is.
Right.
And it's something I will never, I won't certainly understand it. I will never get to the bottom of it. It's a way deeper dive, I'm sure, psychologically. But it is what it is, and I've just learned to deal with it. But I am, you know, I am one of two people. And that's all this show is that people are seeing, right? One of two people. There's really many more people. There's group dynamics in play. And so I look at it like I have my strongest friendships and my closest relationships inside this building. And I let that speak for itself.
That's really cool. How often do you guys speak, you and Eva?
Oh my gosh, often, always, constantly. She was just working with Faith Ford and Ted McGinley, two other really great friends of mine that I speak to daily. And they were all together shooting a movie, and I wasn't there. And I said, you can't find it, I think it's a murder mystery or something. And I go, I can't play the dead body? What's wrong with you guys?
Be too distracting. You'd be in a leotard.
I am also not good at holding my breath. You know how you ever see the dead body and you're like, how are they doing that? They're not even breathing. I would be breathing all over the place.
Yeah, totally. I do want to ask you about what you have coming up on Kelly and Ryan. I hear that there's a little bit of a Halloween situation happening.
When is there not a little bit of a Halloween? We start our Halloween shows in the summer, so people should really get ready for a lot.
What can you teach? Like, what are you going to come as? Will you tell me?
I can't tell you now, but I can say there are, I think, 79 costume changes. Is that right? Yeah, 79 costume changes this year.
For how many people? Just you and Ryan?
Yeah, so wrap your mind around that.
No, I
yeah,
don't want to.
It's
I'm
pretty.
tired.
I'm tired. And we still have the whole show to do.
How do you do like your complexion and everything? Because you're going to have to be.
It's very difficult. It's like we sort of debate. We debate like what we should tape and what we should do live, because the taped sections allow us to do the quick changes so that we can change, and we base our makeup and hair changes on what's easy to get in and out of and what is easy to build on.
Okay.
Like, you don't want to be anything that may require a shower after you're that thing.
So you're not Elphaba then?
Exactly.
That's green from head to toe.
Exactly. You don't want to do that and then have to get into something like, I don't know. I don't know. I can't tell you anything. I can't tell you
I
anything.
can see you want to, though. You're like
I do
trying
want to tell
so
you, but
hard,
I can't tell you.
But I appreciate you.
I tried.
The last question here, I just want to talk
Yeah.
about your son Michael getting into acting, and you and Mark were producers on his new movie.
Yes.
What was it like working with him in that environment?
What was funny was that, you know, he's been working as a producer for since he graduated,
Yeah.
and then he got this job on Riverdale playing the young version of Mark, and he really loved it, and he was really quite good at it. And we said to him, "You should try acting. You should audition for more things." And he did, and he, you know, was still, but he's still working as a producer
Right.
throughout, you know, because that's how he has his degree. He earns a living that way, and so we read this role in the final script, and I said, "Michael, you could totally play this role. You should like read for this role." And he's like, "I don't want to work for you guys. It's like nepotism." And I was like, "Yeah, but exactly. Like, what are you, the person that's going to stand on ceremony and not take a job because your parents are producers?
Right.
Like, that's ridiculous."
And if you're good, you're good.
And he's so good at it. I mean, he literally fills me with joy because he's such a good actor, and he's got that thing. He's got that, you know what it is? He reminds me of watching Mark when Mark was that age. That's what I see when I look at him, you know, I see all of that right there.
Is he, oh, sorry, I do have, this
Yeah.
is the final question,
Yeah.
I promise.
It's okay.
Andy Cohen was just saying that you are the person he comes to for parenting advice. So I want to know what your superpower mom advice is.
Well, I tell him that you have to pace yourself on the guilt. You're going to feel bad about a lot of things. You're going to feel like you're constantly making mistakes, and you're not. Kids are resilient, and all they know is that their parent loves them the most, and that's all they need to know. You know, and they don't say, "My dad is going to give me the exact right advice right now because he knows what he's doing." He just knows, does my dad love me? Is he there for me? That's it. Check, check. That's it.
I'm good to go.